They just previewed a Final Fantasy card. It's a Jumbo Cactuar that when it attacks, it gets plus 9,999 power. And that is all that I'm going to be able to think about this league while I am recording. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and we are going to be playing with a spicy Death's Shadow variant today. Now, Death's Shadow obviously wants you to deal a lot of damage to yourself so that you can get a creature that is close to a 13/13 in power. But honestly, even if you're doing something like a 5/5 for 1 mana, that is obviously above rate, even by Legacy standards. And normally, some number of Thoughtseizes and Watery Graves are how you get over that line. But today, we're going to go slightly more controlling with our Death's Shadow list. And we're going to get Bobs in there. We're going to get Dark Confidants in there, as well as some copies of Snuff Out. The deck looks solid on paper. You know, there's no cards that I would be embarrassed to play here. The Oculus in particular has really impressed me in Modern, and it's been quite scary in Legacy. Anytime you don't answer that immediately, it just gets a disgusting amount of value. There is one kind of cute interaction here due to things like layers, that is the order in which various things are checked when you're trying to figure out how big creatures are and other complicated effects. If you have a Death Shadow in play and then you cast a Dress Down, it will become a 13/13 creature. So this can be an unusual way to get a combo finish and deal unexpected amounts of additional damage to your opponent. The sideboard here is just full of really good blue-black stuff. This deck list comes to us from Crackers, and I think this one looks great. And I don't have much else to say here, so let's just hop directly into the league here and hopefully kill some people with avatars? With avatars. Folks, if you find that you need some magic cards, check out toamagic.com. They are legitimately my favorite place to shop. I'm giving them a bunch of money at MagicCon Chicago, and I'll be selling them some cards as well. So it'll be kind of a, give money, take money situation. Promo code ThrabenU will save you a little bit on your order, and remember, you always get free shipping with them, and if you've got a tournament coming up, you can expedite that shipping as well. Alright, let's battle. So there's definitely going to be a little nuance to this deck in terms of how much damage do I choose to deal to myself over the course of this game. I have no blue cards in hand right now. I'm not super interested in that. So for example, like next turn, do I just shock in a Watery Grave when I already have a Bob in hand? Mirror match? Are you also playing Death Shadow Control? I doubt it. Honestly, I doubt it. Ooh, well, okay, well, I've answered that question. Fuck your lands. I'll do it again next turn. Opponent is not going for another Underground Sea. With a Daze here, I think I am okay jamming Bob. It's not perfect, right? Because, like, oh, shit. Fatal push my Bob. Fatal push my Bob. Do it. Ooh, that is a Hedge Maze. So we could actually be playing against something like Beans here. Bug Beans, mid-rangey sort of deck. Absolutely not. I'm going to junk the Watery Grave here. No! Goodbye, Bob. I think despite the fact that my opponent is on board already, I still just do this. And I think I pass the turn there. I think I leave Bowmaster in play and let it hit me. This is one of those weird times where I do intentionally want to lower my life total. Ooh. How many Watery Graves are in my deck? I think it was 3. It is 3. Got it. Yeah? See what's going on over there. A Brainstorm. Is that... That's a Tarmogoyf. I've stopped just calling you Goyf. Arogoyf is now Goyf. Fuck, my opponent's hand is really, really fucking good here. I think I'm taking Force of Will. So my opponent is not showing immediate green mana. There could be a green source on top of their deck that they just didn't show me to make my decision more difficult. That is a Tamiyo. Tamiyo Brainstorm is a problem. I don't know how I'm beating these double removal spells here. This is basic. I take out a Tameo. That's a card. I'm gonna play Watery Grave. Death Shadow is a creature. It's going to get Fatal Pushed, and I am just going to hope to find a new threat. My opponent essentially had 3 answers to my Shadow. Force of Will, Push, and Edict. And there's no way for me to clear all of that. I can try to leave them with the Force of Will so that, like, I can take Fatal Push, make them Force of Will it, but, and like, that uses an extra card. Alright, I mean, there's a thing. Do I have more expensive cards in my deck? Yeah, there's like Oculus around Daze and Hardcast Snuff Out. I'm going to shock that in. I have opposing Tarmogoyfs to potentially be thinking about. I'm going to hope that they don't hit the land for Sheoldred's Edict. Alright, the Brainstorm has been fired off. Alright, that's not a shuffle, but that means the Tarmogoyfs are coming. Can answer 1 with Snuff Out. Ooh, yeah. Alright, so my opponent has land, instant, creature. I want my sorcery out of there. Thoughtseize needs to go, and then the rest doesn't matter really at all. And then I think I'm hoping that this Oculus just wins me the game. Opponent takes the hit. Oh, that's inconvenient. I still get to manifest Dread. Don't hit anything cool. This still gives me a 2/2. So my opponent's not getting through for damage. Sheoldred's Edict, getting rid of my Death Shadow is a theoretical problem. I need 6 cards out of my graveyard. I have 4 cards in graveyard. That is not perfect for me. Am I sending in with both? I'm going to hold the token back. My life total is in a little bit of a precarious situation. And I'll play Dark Confidant. Again, every point of life is relevant here. Alright, opponent is brainstorming rather than just making a 2-mana play. And then is pondering to shuffle. That's not bad for me. So, Bob trigger. Bowmasters for Bowmasters. Yeah. I am into that. So, ping. Go to combat. Flare attackers. Send in. I can kill my opponent here if I cast Snuff Out, right? I cast Snuff Out on this, which is not a black creature for 4 life. This turns this into a 12, 13, 14. Seems fine. Weird line, but it's sweet. Dead. Yeah, we got there. I am not sure if my opponent played that game well. I don't know their hand, but I was quite afraid of, like, Tarmogoyfs and Sheoldred's Edicts and such. Just taking out my onboard stuff and stalling my offensive power. I wonder if my opponent wins this game if they just cast these cards on curve. We actually didn't see too much from my opponent here, huh? We saw Brazen Borrower, Bowmaster, traditional cantrips, Force of Will, Thoughtseize, sort of stuff. Not sure that I'm going to sideboard much. I don't think I'm too excited about Force of Negation. I don't think I'm too excited about Dress Down. I will probably just play some amount of removal for my opponent's creatures here. Like, ignoring Deluge. This just gives me 4 more answers to Tarmogoyfs. Since Tarmogoyf is checking both graveyards, I don't know that I am excited about Leyline of the Void. I am going to grow my own graveyard pretty big, especially if an Oculus slips into play. I think I am fine keeping Force of Will here. Sometimes I board out Force of Will in fair blue matchups, but this is a little sketch, but I think it's fine. But I think when my Force of Will is sometimes worth, 6 to 12 damage off a Death Shadow, that is totally fine in terms of tempo. That's a Carpet of Flowers. You've got it. That's going to be very, very good for my opponent. A Wasteland on my end. This makes it so that my opponent is down 2 mana in the short term. They are not getting my mana from Carpet of Flowers, and they are also not getting that Tropical Island mana. This means that I'm not dazing something immediately, but it's filling my graveyard and working towards Oculus, which seems fine to me. Okay, cool. Flooded Strand is a way for me to make a land drop without giving my opponent immediate Carpet of Flowers value. There's some tension here between not wanting to give my opponent Carpet of Flowers mana and wanting to cast my Brainstorm before Bowmasters can get involved. I think I'm just going to live with it. I also don't think I'm going to Surveil land immediately. All right. I can put like a Brainstorm on the stack, try to bait Bowmaster, and then daze it afterwards. That's like okay. I think I'm just going to chill. See what opponent is doing. Opponent is surveilling. I now know that I'm 100% safe from Bowmaster, so I think I'm going to do this. These are some fucking cards. One of these lands can go back. Let's say Watery Grave can go back. Daze is pretty unlikely to be good with Carpet of Flowers around. I think I'm going to go ahead and put that on top of my library with the intention of shuffling it away. That is fine. Wasteland's a little annoying. Tamiyo is a little annoying. I don't actually have a removal spell right now. I probably force that. I could Brazen Borrower it out of play. That doesn't feel great. Yeah, that doesn't feel great. I'm going to do Force of Will, pitching the Brazen Borrower. Cool. I would now like to shuffle my library. The cards aren't good, but this is definitely awkward. Oh, I do have another basic. It's less awkward than I thought, then. Cool. So we're going to throw a Ponder on the stack, see if Bowmaster happens. It does. We're actually trying to bait the Bowmaster here so that I can resolve Dark Confidant without Bowmaster killing it, though. So this was a success. I am not quite ready for Death's Shadow, but if I am only taking one of these cards, I think I'm willing to grab that. It is just a powerful card. Bam, bam, bam. No shuffle. You can ping me. Then fetch a basic black source, the Swamp, and we're going to grab Bob. Bob is dazable, but Bob was not dazed. I now have 6 cards in graveyard for Oculus and can play Oculus around Daze. My opponent is going to get a decent amount of mana with Carpet of Flowers, but I'm kind of hoping that I just overpower what they're doing here. And last turn, I think I passed the Daze check. What is this? Kaito. Annoying. This card has been pretty solid. And one of those is just a land. So hopefully we're good here. Multiple Thought Seizes. You don't have any weird evasion or anything, right? Yeah, no. Just the dude. So bam. Tarmogoyf is a 4/5. Tarmogoyf is a 3/4. And I don't know, maybe I Thought Seize that card. I kind of just want to resolve the Death Shadow while I think my opponent doesn't have removal, though. Ooh. Now hopefully Oculus just takes over the game. Rip my removal spells. Opponent's got a lot of mana. Oh. That's pretty bad. The opponent stuns Oculus. Wasteland's a land. This is a 3/4? Good double block Kaito. Clear Kaito. Then my opponent sacks Bowmasters to kill Oculus. I will be left with a Tarmogoyf on board that I need to top deck my way through. That's probably better than the other stuff that can happen here. Otherwise, my opponent is just like drawing extra cards. Oh shit, they're letting my Oculus live after they've stunned it. That was slightly unexpected. Like, I'm going to get to Manifest Dread. I can also try to Surveil for a sweet creature. That is not a sweet creature. I do unfortunately have 3 dead cards in hand. But then this happens. I will select Dark Confidant. Alright, so now my opponent's going in on something. Now they're killing the Oculus. Another Wasteland, that doesn't matter. I think I'm chumping and hoping for the best. Don't think I can turn this into Dark Confidant and try to chain together multiple cards from 2 life. Alright. Well, I guess I am petty thefting a Tarmogoyf out of play so I don't get cracked for 5. And then fetch. Ugh. Fucked up. Fucked up. I needed to tap that for blue. It's cost me 2 life. Oh, that's a really bad misplay on my end. That's really, really bad on my end. Let the record show, I think I am losing this game either way. Like, my opponent is still at 17. But that 2 life is a pretty big buffer. Like now my opponent can Grist plus, and then next turn I'm facing down multiple lethal threats. I'm at 1. Oops, all wastelands. Alright. That is the end. I am dead. We'll go to a game 3. Don't really think I'm changing anything here. Like, I could play a Toxic Deluge to potentially help out with Bowmasters and Grist blockers and whatnot. I'm not, like, the most excited about it. It would be fine. These are lands and spells. I think I'm going to start dealing damage to myself. We've got a fetch and a Tameo. I'm just going to daze that. Yeah. I don't want my opponent to have sources of card advantage. And just for raw efficiency here, I'm going to cast a Brainstorm. I am not sure that I need to get rid of any of my cards here. I can get rid of one if I want to surveil something into graveyard. And I might just surveil something like Snuff Out or Sheoldred's Edict into graveyard just to work towards Oculus. This is not super mana efficient. I think I'm going to go with this. We'll just go like bam, bam. Then we'll Sewers, Surveil Edict. I could also accomplish a similar thing by potentially putting the Sewers back into the deck. That is a Spell Bomb. That's fine. The 6th card in graveyard is a really big deal. My opponent plays smart with that Spell Bomb. It could be annoying for me. You may surveil. I mean, we'll shock on this one. Bam and bam. That is a very fast Force of Will. So now I have 5 cards in graveyard. Of the 6 for Oculus. Drawing a fetch land would be kind of neat. Alright, there we go. Let's see if my opponent responds to this. They should. They do. They nuke my graveyard. But the kind of lucky thing here is that I can play a Death Shadow. And I am, I think, going to put it into play. It is a little awkward right now in terms of its size, as it currently dies to Bowmaster. But like with Oculus being something that is not currently viable, I think we just do this. Damn it. Yep. I knew that risk. I was narrating that risk. Now I don't have a Surveil land to get. I'm just going to do a tapped Watery Grave at this point and pass the turn. Damn, another one. Sure. My cantrips are now very bad. I'm also taking 4 per turn cycle. This is the sort of board that Toxic Deluge looks good on. Opponent would probably love like a Force of Will or a Tarmogoyf. They just want to like slam the door on this game. Kaito would also be very good, obviously. I'm at 7. Wasteland is not fantastic. I have so little else to do, though, that I will probably Wasteland Tropical Island. Good God. So I get pinged to 6, and then this is going to be 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just dead. My cards did not line up well there. That Spell Bomb won my opponent this game by keeping this from being castable. The Death Shadow being a 1/1 when I played it was also not ideal. But even if I played it as a 3/3 the following turn, like with triple Bowmasters there, they would probably get me in combat. I would probably take that block. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, just the best place to keep your online deck lists, and the reason I say that is it just has so much functionality. So for example, let's take a look at some random legacy deck here. You can click on your various 2-drop slots and you can see what % chance you have of casting various things on curve, and you can get a breakdown of your mana symbols and all of that stuff, and there's a lot more here than just this. Consider checking it out. All right. My opening hand is fine here. I need more mana. We're probably going to use Ponder to accomplish that. Take a little damage here and fire this off. That's great. I go bam, bam, bam. No shuffle. Now we have multiple counterspells of various natures available to us. Mountain. Goblin Welder. I will just Bowmaster that. That can resolve. So, yeah, fetch, Watery Grave, ow, immediate Bowboy. Let's just get that in play. Pass turn. I would like to use this Brainstorm to find a Death Shadow. Like, at this point, I want to make a creature that lives through Lightning Bolt / Fury and just get in there. That That is currently not that annoying. You can have that. I will, of course, like draw Oculus as my next draw and be sad, but you know. So with an Urza Saga over there, my plan kind of changes, and I would really like to find a wasteland. I think I am going to ponder immediately. Note all that stuff. I will shuffle. There's the Oculus I was talking about. All right. I can still find a fetch land or a wasteland to have a good turn here. Ah, yes. That's rough. I put a Force of Negation 2 down. I will put some card that I'm not going to pitch to Force of Will on top of my library. 4 cards in my graveyard. Send in for 2. Missing on Wasteland or Fetch Land was rough there. Here's the Saga ticks up. All these counterspells currently probably not very strong. My opponent is very likely to just pass the turn here. All right. What is up, cat? Okay. Well, now that I've shut the door, you're not interested anymore, huh? Okay. Well, if you scratch at that door, I'll let you out. You figure it out, bud. So, is there any cute line where I can attack in and get an Oculus this turn? Not exactly. If I daze my own Snuff out, that doesn't actually net me mana. I think I'm going to go ahead and send in here. All right. So there's Construct Token. We're just purely going to get that out of the way here. Opponent's at 16. We're now going to try to fix this shit. Oh my god. Dress down's okay. I will... Yikes. I'll put back a Force of Negation and Daze. Make my land drop and pass. So there's my opponent's Construct Token. Binding Boots. Another Urza Saga. The longer I hold this dress down, the more work it does versus Construct Tokens. But I think I am just trying to get this Oculus in play and hope that that beats this next Urza Saga. These Urza Sagas are just really, really rough. Isn't that right, Mr. Percy? It is, yes. And we'll lose Urza Saga at end of turn. God damn it. Why is my opponent good? Good job. That is a great spot to take that effect in. So now I don't get to Oculus, and I'm just left with these 5 counterspells. Thought I was going to get away with that. Opponent's too good. Watch too much ThrabenU. That's an Ancient Tomb into an activation. My opponent can now give that creature haste and ward. Why does anyone play counterspells? These cards are so bad. They don't do anything. There's a very good chance that my opponent just fully goes wide of everything that I'm doing here. I think we have reached the point where I need to start considering chump blocking against these Construct Tokens to save life. Like, I know I want a lower life total and everything, but maybe not this slow. Mox Opal. Yep. Just cast a spell. Just cast something. Fuck. And I think I'm doing this here. Alright, to that, I can just answer with a Daze without bouncing one of my lands. Only 2 cards in graveyard, though. Oh my gosh. Mr. Percy, we just got wrecked, bud. Dead. The incidental graveyard hate doing some serious work on me here. Alright, Null Rod's great. The removal spells of various natures are fine. Consign to Memory is a pretty respectable card. Being able to nuke triggered abilities can do some serious work versus Urza Saga. And I'm going to massively go down on counterspells here based on how that game went. Force of Negation is the first to go. Like, how much of this can I get rid of? I can basically get rid of all of it if I just don't want to play counterspells and do something that looks like this. Something in this ballpark is probably fine. Yeah, looks good. I will probably just pass the turn here and not use my mana immediately. Passing the turn leaves up both Consign to Memory and Fatal Push. Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal, Painter's Servant. We will just counter that colorless spell here. Okay, so we get Pyroblasted, which is totally fine, because my opponent just traded 2 cards for one of my cards, and now I can just Fatal Push Painter's Servant and then Wasteland. So Fatal Push, no, build your own Force of Will with Spirit Guide and a Blast. And we'll pass the turn. We both have 4 cards, but I have a land in play. Now they have a land in play. I think I'm just not going to react immediately and leave myself a little flexibility here. Ooh, 1 land. That wasteland was very clutch on my end then. Let's try to find something with points of power and toughness. I think my opponent has a Pyroblast based on this pause. I am correct. I mean, technically a red Elemental Blast, but you know. Let us ponder. Grabbing another ponder is okay. I'm fine doing that. Gonna shock in a Watery Grave. And I will probably just Bowmaster at end of turn to start attacking my opponent when I know that they don't have lands. The thing that I could be doing in this matchup is fetching basics to play around Blood Moon effects. I'm instead going to lower my life total and let my cat out of the room. Alright, Mr. He's a sweetie. Alright. 17. Press down's okay. Not amazing, but okay. Shadow is fine. I think I'm going to go bam, bam, bam. No shuffle. Go to 13. Punchies for 2. Alright, and after no land drop there, we will simply just cast Brazen Borrower to accelerate my own clock. This will make me worse against something like a Fury. We get blasted. And that's fine. No lands, only blasts. Yeah. I mean, life total's the same. So we're doing equally well in this game, right? That's how that works. Well, there's that Fury. We're going to go ahead and let that hit play. So we are going to go ahead and cast this with Replicate on this damage trigger. I'll replicate that 3 times. That way we don't get blasted. We're just gonna same targets every time. So my opponent pitched a card for Fury. So that was a excellent. I'm not even mad. I could cantrip through my dress down here in an attempt to put Death Shadow into play immediately. I think I'm just going to slow my roll. What about casting it at my end step to cycle through it now? Or my opponent's second main even? Nah, this is too good versus Urza Saga if this game starts going poorly. This is fine. I've got a Null Rod in play. Got a dress down for Saga. I have a Shadow that is on the cusp of being good. Opponent is being a trooper. They are... Alright. There's varying degrees of greed here. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8. Double Fury is very unlikely. Fury Lightning Bolt is possible. Let's do something like that. And then drop Death Shadow into play. So it is now unlikely that my opponent removes that with red removal. And then I either have a 2-turn clock of hitting with Death Shadow naturally, or I have a 1-turn clock if my opponent does not have Pyroblast because I just dressed down and 13 my opponent. I like the no counterspell situation that I've got going on, minus Consign to Memory, which did some work. Do I want more Consign to Memory? I don't know that I do. What about Thoughtseize? Consign to Memory versus Thoughtseize. Consign to Memory might be better than a couple of Thoughtseizes. I still want some. They lower my life total. We got a respect from the opponent in chat when I nuked my own life total to put Death Shadow into play. My hand's fine. Like, I've got a tool versus Urza Saga. I have a Source of Inevitability. I have some initial removal spells for the Goblin Welder type cards of the world. And my opponent's just passing the turn. We have 3 removal spells, 3 lands, 1 Deuter. Pretty happy with my current situation. Painter can resolve. Interestingly, sometimes my opponent wants to paint it black to play around Snuff Out. I think I'm going to get basics this game. And great, that just worked. So this can represent a basic. I've got Sheoldred's Edict and Snuff Out available. We'd like to avoid a value-oriented card here. Hey, remember that thing I decided to play around? Good fucking thing I did. Because that's resolving. It's now harder for me to put cards into my graveyard, though. So I'm going to need a little help from my opponent in that regard. I can ponder here. Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No shuffle. Land drop. Land drop. And Bob. So now my opponent's Urza Sagas are offline. That's great for me. This is exactly the sort of value-oriented card that I did not want to see, by the way. This was the exact card that I had in mind last turn when I was talking about cards I didn't want to see. I might snuff that out if it will let me play an Oculus immediately. I'm at 17. 4 life puts me to 13. Not enough for this. I think I'm going to use mana here. Please sacrifice a creature token. Yeah, and yeah. 5 cards in graveyard. I've got the free snuff out coming up soon. Hopefully next turn I can play Oculus and Death Shadow. That'll require my opponent putting something in play that I can snuff out here. Otherwise I have to wait 1 turn. Ugh. I mean, that's just another thing to snuff out, I guess. I guess I will do that. But I have no reason to do it immediately. Yeah, I have no reason to do it immediately. I can see what this Bob trigger is and what my draw step is. Press down's a thing that might help make my opponent dead. So let's just snuff out that token, go to 11, make a land drop, go to combat, send in. Opponent goes to 16. No, not you. I'm going to cast this. I think a lot of times it doesn't work. Like, my opponent is just a blast deck. I haven't cast too many blue cards here. Oh shit, it worked. And then I will drop a Death Shadow. And this is me just trying to put the pedal to the metal and try to end this game. Alright, I am manifesting my Dread. No fancy creature this time. Now my opponent gets to transform this one and loot. Multiple reflection of Kiki Jikis at the same time gets kind of annoying because you can use one to copy the other and make a bunch of copies of them. Ooh, I don't have mana up for Dress Down. That's very powerful here. Yep. And this is the Death Shadow that happens when I don't get to shock myself with these fetch lands because everything is a mountain. Ooh, opponent is extruding. So they throw damage at the Oculus, then lightning bolt the Oculus to finish it off. This is becoming scary quickly. Now my opponent can sacrifice another artifact. Oh, never mind. Well, this helps. I have 6 mana this turn. I'm going to crash in with this 2/2 and see what my opponent says about that. Nice. I am happy with that. Opponent maybe can't risk it being a Death Shadow there. Now I think I'm just going to cycle this Dress Down. I think I am just playing Null Rod and Dark Confidant this turn. I am confirmed playing those 2 cards. I guess other order. So there's the Rod, and then there's Bob. Flag today is rough, by the way. My opponent has 1 card, and I'm just hoping they don't draw a banger here. That is a certified banger. I have Null Rod, though, so, you know, things not quite as bad as they could be. Am I into a Bob attack? No, not this turn. 1 ring. I am, however, going to play a backup Null Rod, just in case. So this 1 ring is still going to trigger, but it's not going to do anything because there's no counters on this. So I'm going to put this in play, hang my opponent for 1, and we kind of see what happens with Bob and hope I don't bleed myself too much. Oculus is great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That should clean up this game pretty quickly. I am fine sending in with Bob. Bowmaster and token attacks don't really make sense, though. And I don't think I want another one of these in play right now. If the first one dies, we can talk. All right. The scariest thing is something like Fury that my opponent could draw, wipe my board with, and then copy with Reflection of Kiki Jiki afterwards. Bob? Okay. How much do I have in play? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Bowmaster to face is 12, 13. I'm just going to double check that. I guess my opponent could have a Pyroblast. So it maybe doesn't make sense to go wild in that regard. Am I fine letting my opponent block? Yeah, probably. Send it. This is fine. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm okay using my mana like this. There's currently no 5-drop in my deck. I've boarded out Force of Will, so I don't need to use Bowmaster to kill my own Bob. Trigger, do this. Opponent goes to 2. Double Lightning Bolt to face. Sure, I'll take a Brazen Borrower. I mean, that's a big card. The opponent just wants to take out some number of my creatures and give me a chance to die to my own Bob. I know that that's not happening. And this is just guaranteed lethal in the air at this stage. Yep, alright, we have gotten the GGs from our opponent. Again, this flies. And we put a win on the board. Mana is a little rough with this hand, with Wasteland and Swamp and Daze. That is no bueno. Or a blue deck, it'll work itself out, right? Right. I can put some number of cards in graveyard. So this is the way that I win this game. Force of Will feels problematic to me. I'm going to take that and pass the turn here. The 6 was awkward to start with, and I think my opponent's hand is quite powerful. Fuck! Well, at least I know that my Snuff Out is going to resolve. Well, that's the upside here. So we are just going to snuff that out immediately and pass the turn. I will probably just straight up cycle a Dress down. It is not really a powerful card right now. There's Misty. Brainstorm's fine. Opponent fetches, and then follows it up with a Delver. I'm just going to cantrip here to see if I randomly hit a Daze. I think at 13 life already, I don't Watery Grave. I just do an Underground Sea. So yeah, that's been cast. Wow, opponent says no cantrip for you, which is like not actually all that bad. Force of Negation is not strong here. I have 4, soon to be 5 cards in graveyard, assuming that I surveil land literally whatever I look at. Fuck! I have 6 cards for Oculus. What a devastating card to flip there. We know all the other cards in hand, so that was just random bad luck. So I need to thread the needle on this stuff here. Surveil. Snuff Out? I'm into it. 5 cards in graveyard. This will be 6. I'm going to snuff out the Delver, which I think my opponent is just going to Force of Will. Like, it seems very good to do so, because I pay the life as cost. All right, they're going to Seek the Beast in response. Not hitting anything. Super good. Use your damn Force. Do I have to just cast Oculus? I think so. I think I cast this and then hope to ponder my way into something else cool next turn. Am I a crazy person? Did I just keep track of those cards wrong? I must have. I must have just kept track of those cards wrong. There's a Ponder. Lightning Bolt and Lightning Bolt. Okay. That's fine. So we will bring in some amount of removal for my opponent's stuff. I don't think I'm touching ley lines here. I think I'm just going down on some number of counter spells and dress downs. Fit in additional removal. This is 60 as is. I could play Toxic Deluge over another counterspell of some kind. I don't think I'm dipping into Leyline of the Void. I think this is fine. I have reasonable cards here, but I don't think my mana is reasonable, especially with ETB tapped land and Daze here. I'm going to think about it for a second. Like, I can try to use this to dig towards my next land drop. I think I just get Delvered a lot of times if I keep this hand. This is fine. I'll probably keep this one in Force of Will. I am going to try to lead this game on a basic. I think I can count on my opponent to lower my life total. This is fine. Bam, bam, bam. No shuffle. The opponent's just passing the turn here. I don't think I am interested in wastelanding them. And I think I'm just going to feed Dark Confidant to one of their spells. I don't know if I'm trading with a Daze or a Lightning Bolt or an Unholy Heat or what, but I think I'm just trading this in hopes of growing this graveyard. Yep. Bobble. Immediate cycling. Targeting themselves, they want to see what to do with a fetch land. That is a wasteland. That's pretty bad for me in the short term, and hopefully not super relevant in the medium term. Opponent takes their redraw. I'm just going to brainstorm and surveil something into graveyard afterwards. I don't think my brainstorm's resolving. The opponent is brainstorming in response, and I get dazed. That's totally fine. 5 cards in graveyard. This will be 6 cards in graveyard. This will be 6 cards in graveyard. There's Volk again. There's Ponder. I'm not the most excited about just shoving Oculus into daze here. I'd like to find something else to do with mana on my turn. That's something else to do with mana on my turn. Oh, shit. Yes. Bam, bam, bam. No shuffle. Ponder again. Oh, I wish I could take 2 of those immediately. Oculus goes further down. Yeah. Yeah. No shuffle. Underground Sea and pass. Again, I don't think we are wastelanding our opponent here. I think my mana is more valuable than theirs. We'll see if they are even interested in wastelanding me. They are not. So let's start here. Let's see what's going on. Multiple Pyroblasts. Fuck, I can't get through with Oculus. That is unfortunate. Wow, my opponent's hand is kind of nuts. Although they don't have bonus mana. The plan becomes wasteland them off of Volcanic Island and Oculus later. I could take the Questing Druid here, actually, because that's castable right now. I'm going to do that. Then, now that I know they don't have mana, I will do this. Just bottlenecking them on red for that Pyroblast is more important than everything else. Alright, opponent gets a redraw. Opponent can look at my top card, take their redraw, and then decide if they are wastelanding me. They are, because I showed them an Oculus on top. So I am hoping to draw a land before they draw open red mana, which did not occur. So they're just going to fetch that immediately, so there's not an awkward window. But my opponent is not clocking me. They can drop this, and then I can edict that. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. Fantastic. Thoughtseize is okay. Yeah. So probably want to take Force of Will so that Sheoldred's Edict can kill whatever threat that my opponent eventually top decks. I think that is the way that I'm going to play this. Consigned to Memories aren't super strong here. Alright, opponent found a Ponder. So Pyroblast is not immediately available. And if I play an Oculus and I get a 2/2 off of it, that's okay value for right now. Not perfect, but it's okay value. Like, that's the sort of wiggling that I'm trying to do right now. We missed the window, though. But I now have 2 removal spells for the threats that my opponent is going to play. This is an exceptionally long game, given that we both have the ability to tempo end games incredibly quickly. 3 removal spells. If I knew I was going to draw this many removal spells, I would have taken a Pyroblast. My opponent is discarding. They're going to discard Consigned to Memories. They're terrible. I'm passing the turn here. My Force of Will, not great against known opposing Pyroblast, but could, in theory, do some stuff. Ponder's fine. Every time my opponent ponders and then passes the turn without a Pyroblast available, that is giving me an opportunity to potentially get a 2/2 off of Oculus. But they do have mana available this time. So I know 4 of my opponent's 7 cards. There's a decent chance that if I play this, it just gets dazed, and I don't have Force of Will backup right now. It also just gets Pyroblasted. Like, we'll chill. That's totally fine. I think this is a pay 2 life Dismember sort of situation. Swamp. I think we are going to Dismember this, pay 2 life, and do this around days. I could Oculus. I'm just waiting. I have no reason to make a move here. I'm at a lower life total, but I think I'm in the driver's seat on this one. Opponent doing an upkeep fetch. There is a Tropical Island and a Murktide Regent, which I will intend to just Sheoldred's Edict at their end step. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. There's a Force of Will pitching this Consigned to Memory. If I Force of Will, they Pyroblast. I could then Force of Will again to win the fight, but then I'm kind of out of fuel. Or I could Force of Will, try to get Pyroblast, and then try to win this game with Oculus, which I don't think is super likely. Murktide Regent in a single hit plus a Lightning Bolt gets me, and my opponent will still have another Pyroblast. I think this sucks, but I think I have to fight. and then hope to top deck a black threat. The raw efficiency of my opponent's Pyroblast versus the efficiency of my Force of Wills is like very, very clear here. There's a nice legacy stack for you. Good God. All right, we do not have a lot of time to top deck out of that. Okay. That's the black threat I wanted, but I really wanted Murktide Regent to not be in play. Oh wait, fuck, I'm at exactly 8 now. That just punches me in the face. I'm fucking dead. Oops. Not much to be done there. We lost that fight. If my opponent doesn't have that other Force of Will, we can do a Death Shadow, Brazen Borrower, Dance for a couple of turns, and it looks like that goes well for me. GG's. My opponent has revealed a Yorion Companion, which is, you know, sometimes Death and Taxes and sometimes some ridiculous blue pile. And this hand can vary a lot depending on what we are playing against, so this is going to be a very informative fetch land. It is a blue pile. So this feels like some Espervile style bullshit. I think, not going to let my opponent have that. I will awkwardly drop Underground Sea and pass so that I have days available. But if my opponent is a Wasteland deck as well, it is incredibly awkward to play out this land. I think I am playing out Bowmasters prior to Bob. It just feels like this is a great end of turn brainstorm situation for my opponent. And Bowmaster might also just be removal. Third land drop. Blue-white Yorion? Alright. So that I can play Bob on my own turn, I'm going to go ahead and fire this off. I think it's just eating a swords. But if I can get some damage off of it, cool. Send it. 14. I think I'm just going to play this as a tapped land and throw Bob into play. It's really awkward if I am just walking into the world's greatest Supreme Verdict. I accept. I think I want to wait a little while on this brainstorm. Skyclave Apparition. Yeah. My Wastelands and Dazes are not treating me well here. Damn, I could have brainstormed into Force of Will. I was trying to hold this to, like, do it better with a fetch land. Or not. Put back 1 and 2. Thoughtseize my opponent. Main deck Surgical Extraction on Brainstorm. That is a decision that you are legally allowed to make. Thank you for shuffling my library after I brainstorm locked myself. This is probably an indicator of a relatively unhealthy metagame. Opponent has 2 lands. I'll be passing the turn here. My opponent's Yorion is in a bit of an awkward spot. Opponent choosing not to attack here. Opponent has put Yorion to hand despite the fact that they know that I have Thoughtseize. So, you know, show me why you did that. Brainstorm? Nope. Well, I'm going to Force a Will one of those. Or Double Daze, maybe. I'm going to take the Lorien Revealed. Leave my opponent with Yorion. Land drop. I am probably never going to have a better opportunity to Double Daze than this. So, bam. Opponent obviously pays. And then, bam. I think this whole situation was avoidable by my opponent just waiting on the Yorion. I'm not pressuring their life total at all. I think they could have just left that in the metaphorical command zone for a little while. And then when they get to enough mana to do it and play it in a turn, they can play around my Thoughtseize. Anyway, imagine if that Surgical Extraction was a real card. Opponent is like very proactively fetching around Stifle effects. Bob, sure. Now I have their next spell covered. These are fine. The Death Shadow is... The Death Shadow probably gets better quickly. Am I just trying to tempo out this Skyclave by bouncing it? Seems okay. Oh no, I'm lagging while casting a Ponder. This is the worst. I don't think I'm going to Brazen Borrower it immediately to take damage this turn. I think I'm going to do it at my opponent's end step. That way I get the land and the Who's He What's It next turn. Harbinger of the Seas. Well, my opponent tapped that very poorly. Or no, they just have a gajillion planes. That's not true. I can just let this resolve and Brazen Borrower out of play. Take that as a tempo win. I don't think I need to do that. Let's Force of Will that. Pitching Days. So now, end of turn, we'll take this tempo play, and I get my 2/2 illusion. So now I take 0 from the land, because I stacked that properly. I go to combat. I swing in, hit my opponent for 5. They go 2-5. Then I'm gonna just play this and pass the turn here. And I will be able to cast a Brazen Borrower at my opponent's end step. And that's that. The following is said with love. If you live in a metagame where in order for your deck to be viable, you need to do things that look like this, you should not be playing that deck. And this is said from the perspective of someone who has like jammed things like Red Prison and Death and Taxes into metagames where they clearly don't belong. But like if your Reanimator matchup is so bad that you need to main deck Surgical Extraction in order to have a reasonable chance at winning that matchup, maybe switch decks for a little while. Opponent might be doing something weird with like a Spell Seeker package. I don't think that really makes it better. I would just rather play good cards in game one. Toxic Deluge seems great here. Some amount of additional removal is fine. I could play Consign to Memory. My counterspells are not actually all that good. Force of Negation is definitely going. I probably keep Force of Will. There's some endgame stuff like Yorion that can come down that is a really big problem. Dress downs are okay. They're going to be a little clunky in terms of my ability to actually cast them, like having the mana to at the appropriate time. They're pretty good come endgame. Thought Seizes are medium. Sometimes they're going to do what they did to Yorion and that Lorien revealed this game where they take something very critical, but a lot of times my opponent is just going to get things on board and generate a bunch of value in a way that's not great for me. Looking at Daze, looking at Thoughtseize as my weaker cards here. If I could get more threat dense, I probably would, but I can't. I think I'm going to go down Daze on the draw and keep Thoughtseize. I haven't seen a ton of my opponent's deck, but there's presumably a ton of like Soul Herder type bullshit in there that I'm going to have to deal with. I think this hand Brainstorm locks itself too much of the time to want to keep this one. The second hand is fine. I'll keep this and bin probably the Brainstorm. Most of these cards are just good. I think it's more likely that I end up looking for specific cards than general cards. I'm going to go ahead and ponder. Toxic Deluge is a great card for if things go wrong, but I really don't want that for quite a few turns. I think I'm just going to shuffle that. A Shadow is probably fine to good here. There's some tension between wanting to get basics in play and wanting to obliterate my life total. That's white. Opponent is hyper aggressively playing around Stifle, probably to a fault. I do not need to worry about Harbinger of the Seas next turn. Stuff's fine. I'll take a Bob with the ability to fetch the rest of the stuff away that I don't want. Land drop 3 from my opponent. My opponent might time walk themselves to play around Stifle. And if they do, I'm going to lean into it a little bit. Alright, they didn't this time. I wish I had the Stifle. I don't actually want Stifle in my deck, though, to be clear. They are just fetching and passing the turn. That is allowed. Womp. I would probably just be playing Bob directly into white removal here. I'm going to probably lead on Bowmasters on their turn in some capacity. I'm going to deal some damage to myself. Land drop. And some movement. I roughly know this one. Whenever one or more other creatures you control... Okay, draw a card. When it dies, turn it into an enchantment. Sure. We'll just take this value. So like that, I kill that creature, it turns into an enchantment, and this is not optional. So now, when my opponent plays creatures, they are going to trigger Bowmasters. So sounds good to me. Send it. 15. I will play a Dark Confidant. Again, I think there's a decent chance that it just eats a removal spell, though. Wastelands, whatever. Files, whatever. Swords is good. But that means Bowmasters is just sitting here. That's annoying. So this also makes my life total go up, making Death Shadow worse. Sure. This is where I just want to find an Oculus. I'll crash in for 1. Opponent's at 14. That's a land drop. And opponent's chilling. I was going to use a Surveil land, I forgot. 13. This is an exile. Yeah, sure. You may absolutely junk my 1/1 creature. Fetch. Sewers. Junk that. I mean... The shorter this game is, the better it is for me. Like my opponent eventually starts getting into Yori and bullshit. Most of my opponent's removal will gain me life back, but not all of it, like with Assimilation Aegis there. Yeah, I don't think I'm favored in this long game. I'm going to do this. Maybe. Fetch. Grab that other Watery Grave. YOLO. Let's drop Death Shadow. I can die for doing this. Yep. Except, again, if I think I am losing the long game anyway, this is a favorable thing for me to do, even if it does not work out here. Yorion is coming a few turns later. This is going to be a problem. I accept. Oh, now I get a game where I'm on the play. Do I want Dazes instead of Thoughtseizes? Never mind. We'll pretend no. I don't like this. Nope. Feast or Famine with these hands. This is what's happening. I get to keep 5 of these, which is unfortunately probably this. And we are really leaning on Dark Confidant to go the distance here. I think I am leading on Island. I don't think I want to get Watery Grave Wastelanded on 1. Alright, come on, Magic Online. I have things to do to prepare for Chicago. Let's go, bud. Plains and pass. Vile is happening. We are using Force of Will to protect Bob. I need the cards to get back into this game. So pay 2. Play Bob. Caracas. Absolutely not. I think I'm actually going to junk Ponder here. I think I want Bob around very badly. God damn it. Oh, okay. That's fine. Yeah, Vile doesn't do anything. I was just going to lose it if it was another Swords after that. Oh, rough. No follow-up blue card to protect Bob. I think I need to Wasteland my opponent to keep them off of Skyclave next turn to give me another turn worth of cards off of Bob. Bob attacks start to be risky now with Vile on 2. I think it's pretty safe with Vile on 1. Sure. Going for pre-war formal wear. I have lots of removal in my deck. That's not the end of the world. That was not a great series of cards. I don't think I get to attack with Bob, no. I am not going to dress down in response to that trigger. Belia. Annoying. Very annoying. I think this game is now lost. I think my opponent gets to do some very strong blink nonsense here. And I think I'm holding dress down for Force of Will, and I'm just unhappy about it. Yep. This is an early concession, but Magic Online has been lagging really, really badly. I am going to concede here. I think my opponent has this one locked up with like Felia Skyclave. I could play this out for a little while and try to disrupt it, but I think my opponent's got it here. GG's. No blue mana. Double Death Shadow, Thoughtseize. This is a hand of Magic the Gathering cards. I don't think I can do this. It's such a high variance hand. This is much safer. I am not super digging these dress downs. I just have kind of needed it to be a reasonable spell in a lot of instances, and it is not super great. Like, when it is important, especially versus Urza Saga, it is the best card in your deck, but dress down does not make a hand keepable. Ancient Tomb and pass. I will just Wasteland that Ancient Tomb and restart this game where I have drawn an additional card. We'll do that in my opponent's upkeep just in case things get a little weird for some reason. I don't expect them to. Goodbye, Ancient Tomb. Alright, I've played against this deck before, but I forget it every time because I don't think it's super relevant to remember. It was some kind of weird bullshit combo deck that does something unfair with, like, Coveted Jewel or something. Oh, no, it's different. It is the Synthesizer. I take back everything I said about Urza Saga. Or sorry, Dress Down. Dress Down is amazing. Oh, we hit Daze, though. That's fantastic. Oculus is really good. I'm pretty far away from it. I get to put one card back here. I think I'm putting back Snuff Out and shuffling that away. I think that's my plan. Yeah. I now don't get to play Dark Confidant this turn. I don't think that's the end of the world. With no Death Shadow in sight, I think I'm just going to Underground Sea here. Ponder. Counterspells are pretty good. This is fine. The Daze is not overly exciting, but my opponent is not guaranteed to have extra mana here, and sometimes I counter something like the One Ring. I am a genius by keeping that Daze. And opponent has not had Force of Will to back this shit up, which is great, because it's terrifying for me if they do. We'll just play a land and pass. Is that the tutor? Yeah. Not the biggest fan of my opponent picking up the One Ring. This one is resolving. Why does my opponent want Urza's Cave? Is it just because it's another Urza land for... geez. I can picture the card art. Urza's tap for Urza land card. Totally blanking on the name. Opponent loses 1. Then this happens. And it's real good. Don't always yield to that. Opponent goes to 12. Draws 2. Opponent goes to 10. And I have some real amount of power in play now. Chalice is fine. That does not impact any of the cards currently in my hand. It also cost my opponent 2 life. 6 cards in graveyard. Oh, we're going in. Yeah. I have 4 damage on board. My opponent has very little left. Memory Guardian. Okay. So my opponent is going to make a synthesizer token, which I can clear with Dress Down. That's not actively good. I think I just clear any construct tokens that they make next turn, and then attempt to swing for lethal. And I play Oculus this turn. Yes. Opponent's deck seems sweet. All right, Oculus in play. Pass turn. And opponent concedes. So this is from Aether Drift. This is new. This is solid. Not seen this one. I mean, this makes me want to revisit Simulacrum Synthesizer. I get it. Brewers out there, I'm interested in this. You know what to do. Null Rod, good. Consign to Memory, good. I don't really answer a Chalice of the Void once it's in play too well. I will be thinking about some amount of this stuff. Dress Down's great. I'm gonna get rid of Thought Seizes. That's just something that eats it to Chalice of the Void. I kind of wish I had a couple of Murktide Regents here as some additional top end to close the game. If I had that, I would feel safer cutting Death Shadow. I don't feel super safe about that as of right now. Days on the draw is probably a little rough. Sometimes that is just not going to line up well versus the One Ring type stuff. I'm going to try to lean on Consign to Memory for that, and I think cut Days. I'm going to keep the hard counters and sneak that in. I'm actually going to do 2 of those over Fatal Pushes. Wait, I can't count. The hedge against Chalice, I'm going to do this. Then I am down to 12 1-drops if my opponent just Chalices on 1 when they are on the play. This is a fine hand that I think I am going to keep. It's not like a Turbo No Rod hand or anything, but hopefully this is just fine. Member's great. I am pretty aggressively going to just Brainstorm. I really just want to fill my graveyard for this Oculus. It is quite powerful. Wasteland is wonderful. I will just redraw one of these lands. Actually, I'm going to redraw both. So we'll just play Wasteland Past with the ability to take out this Urza Saga. Well, fine. Chalice on 1. I will respond with a Brainstorm. I don't Force of Will that. I'm going to shuffle away that Force of Will. That Force of Will is very bad. Bam, bam. So we're going to go fetch, grab an Underground Sea, and play a Source of Card Advantage. I'm a little bit away from Oculus, but I am on the right track to just slamming that and trying to win the game. Oh no. Oh, opponent, I actively feel bad. There's not more mana there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Fetch land is 5. Sewers also gets me there. Bam. Send it. 18. Pass turn. Now Urza Saga trigger. Now there is a Chalice of the Void in play. That doesn't matter. We're going to target that with Replicate. We're going to replicate once, paying 2 mana. And what's going to happen here is that my Replicate one is going to go off and counter the Urza Saga trigger. And then the Chalice of the Void is going to counter the original Consign to Memory. Opponent gets to go up to 3 mana. This could be a big chance for them to play something reasonable. Oh man, your deck is sweet, opponent. Stock up seems very good here. New Lotus Petal, and passing the turn. I'm gonna go ahead and fetch. I'm gonna do a tapped Watery Grave. Now I've got 6 in graveyard. Dark Confidant trigger. Ponder. Dismember. I mean, this is why we brought in Dismembers over Fatal Pushes, right? Like, this was fully part of the plan. Now I can Surveil. Don't want that. Well, more accurately, don't want to just junk that with Oculus in a second. I guess I attack with Bob first. There's opposing cards like Dismember. 16. And Oculus. That is a Force of Will pitching a Memory Guardian, that blue affinity card. This Ponder's dead. What is that? Discard a card, look at the top, X cards your library, where X is the number of artifacts you control. Put one into your hand and the rest on the bottom. Your library in a random order. Okay. I do not recognize that set symbol. I think that's weird supplemental set of some kind. Hey, a new Oculus. Sure. Send in. Opponent's at 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're gonna feed a Ponder to a Chalice. They just put a card in graveyard. I don't think that's worth consign to memorying to resolve. Sure. Opponent's doing a good job of restocking here. Bob, more consign, more fetch land. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I got Oculus next turn. Well, I mean, probably. Bob might just go the full distance here. Urza's Cave. That is not a colorless spell for consign to memory, unfortunately. That is resolving. I think I need to put another card into my graveyard. I don't like doing this, but I think that extra card just matters too much right now. I was really hoping my opponent would just play something that I could dismember, and that makes this much easier. Given how that went, it would have been better to resolve the Ponder. Opponent's paying costs on something. A Memory Guardian. That is also not colorless for consigned to memory, unfortunately. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to let that resolve and dismember it. Fetch. Do 1 untapped land. Fetch. Do 1 tapped land. 1, 2, and 3. Take that out. Now I can Oculus. Find me a Null Rod, Bob. Oops. All consigned to memories. 1, 2, 3. I need 2 mana for consigned to memory. Let's call it that. I need 3 mana for this. I could dismember this as well. Doing a life. One of these. One of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Force of Will happens. I think these consigned to memories are still important, but they're definitely awkward. Battle's fine. Absolutely not. Replicate once. Bam and bam. And then that doesn't enter, so my opponent doesn't get a synthesizer thing. Weird game. Alright, I don't need to worry about my graveyard count anymore. I only have 2 copies of Oculus. I have all of the copies of Consigned to Memory and Force of Negation known to mankind. Opponent's chilling. Bob trigger. Oh my gosh. We have Bobs. We have Bobs for days. I am not sure how many of those I get to play. I think I get to play 1. That theoretically presents lethal next turn. But this is definitely awkward. I also should have played a tapped Watery Grave. I'm not like brainstorming through Chalice or anything. And hopefully I don't die to my own Bobs. I would have to reveal double Force of Will. That's not double Force of Will. Single Force of Will, though. All right, so we put 2 wins on the board today. That last match was pretty neat. My opponent's got a really cool idea going for deck building there. All right. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Solid. This felt like a good deck. I think Oculus was worth its weight in gold in this league. You could play Murktide Regent instead. It would accomplish similar effects. At one point in the league, I said I wanted some Murktide Regent as top end, but thinking about it now, I'm not sure that you get to play both Oculus and Murktide at the same time. I would consider playing a Goyf out of the sideboard. I would consider the Dress Downs in the sideboard as well. I don't know that this card is proactive enough for this deck. Crackers is the one who submitted this deck, and they were framing it as shadow control. And if you are trying to play the control role, the Dress Downs make a lot of sense. But a lot of the time I was actually in a tempo role rather than a control role. But I give this one my seal of approval. This felt solid. Sideboard options felt good. My in-out numbers worked pretty well today. We didn't use Leyline of the Voids, but I think we absolutely want them in the deck. So I thumbs up this one. I had fun playing this league as a whole. There were some times where we had kind of non-games or awkward games because sometimes you draw like the Wastelands and the Swamp when you have Brainstorms and Ponders and such. But that's gonna happen. So generally speaking, I like it. Great job in deck building. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. And if you need some cards, you know where to go. All right. My brain's a potato. See ya. I mean, have a good day. Jumbo Cactuar!